An American Airlines attendant on an international flight vanishes in Colombia on what should have been a routine layover. But 5 days later, that frantic search continues. We are learning alarming new details about his last known whereabouts and the situation, and it makes this even more critical. And now you have family who is joining American authorities in the quest to find this missing man. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. All right, real quick, before we go any further, I have to tell you about this app that is pretty amazing. It's our sponsor. It's called Upside. Gets you cash back, extra cash back on everyday purchases like gas, groceries, takeout. So here's what you do. You download Upside for free. You claim an offer at one of their 100,000 plus locations. You pay like normal with a card, and then you verify the purchase, and just like that, money back. So say I need to get gas one night, or I want takeout one night. I'll search for Upside offers first, and after I spend, money appears in my app that I can then transfer right into my bank account. Now, Upside's frequent users earn an average of $254 back a year. So to start getting your cash back, click the link in the description or scan the QR code. Use promo code SIDEBAR to get an extra 25 cents bonus on every gallon on your first tank of gas. 32-year-old Eric Fernando Gutierrez Molina has been an American Airlines flight attendant for over 8 years. This is according to his Facebook page, which also shows photos of him in places all over the world. Turkey, Hungary, Mexico, and that's a big reason that people take this kind of job, right? It is perfect for travel enthusiasts. See the world, see the culture, see the cities. What all of Molina's trips have in common, though, is that he eventually returned back to his home base in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But unfortunately, this is not the case on his latest flight attendant rotation. It has now been 5 days since anyone last saw Molina, or is officially reported seeing Molina, who was supposed to catch a return flight to the United States early Sunday morning. And as the days go by, every second counts in this investigation over 2,000 miles from home. So here's what we know so far. Molina traveled with an American Airlines flight crew from Miami to Medellín, Colombia on the evening of Saturday, March 21st. And the crew was only supposed to be in that area for a short period of time, with a return flight back to Miami scheduled for Sunday morning. Now, Molina's longtime partner, Ernesto Carranza, told CBS News that he last communicated with him on Saturday night. So that is the same night that Molina had arrived in Colombia. During that conversation, Molina reportedly told him he was going out with coworkers. Makes sense, right? You're in the new place, you want to explore it, you want to go out, you need a stress reliever from the work of being a flight attendant. I get it. And I could see why Molina would want to make the most of his time somewhere when it's especially limited, right? So what happens? According to the Colombian publication Medellín, which, by the way, I think is important. If you're talking about a missing persons case, the fact that they're reporting it from local authorities and getting it in that attention, getting it in front of that community, huge, huge. According to this publication, Molina went to a club in the El Poblado neighborhood of Medellín with a female coworker. Now, Molina's friend, Sharon Gill, told the news source that Molina and his coworker met two men at the club, and they were invited to keep the party going in another location. That's an allegation. And the report says that hours later, Molina's coworker, who accompanied him that very night, was apparently found disoriented by authorities in the neighborhood and was taken to a medical center. Now, here's where things get interesting. There is a report from NBC Dallas-Fort Worth that cites a Thursday press conference given by Medellín Security Secretary, who claims that authorities identified the people that were last seen with Molina and his coworker on that Saturday night. According to those officials, those people allegedly have a history of committing theft using scopolamine. We've talked about this in the Epstein files, okay? It was in there. This is apparently an odorless, tasteless drug known as devil's breath, which can cause disorientation, hallucinations. You can even lose consciousness. In fact, the U.S. Embassy in Colombia says that scopolamine is commonly used to carry out robberies in tourist cities like Medellín and Cartagena and Bogota. So at this time, it's unclear if the people believed to be with Molina have been taken into custody, whether they've been questioned. Their identities haven't been publicly released, but officials have reportedly identified vehicles and phones that were used by the individuals. According to the New York Post, authorities said the last confirmed sighting of Molina was in the early morning hours of Sunday in the La America neighborhood of Medellín. So it's a residential area about 6 miles from the El Poblado neighborhood that he reportedly went clubbing in. But then you have this report from Medellín says that he last sent a message around the same time, which indicated his location at an Airbnb in El Poblado, which our understanding is roughly 12 miles from Medellín's international airport. That's where Molina was supposed to report to work. So you seemingly have two separate locations, right? Two distinct locations he could have last been seen in, and I think that's what makes this timeline and this case and this investigation a little more confusing. Now, regardless, he hasn't been heard from since. Molina never showed up for the American Airlines early Sunday return flight to Miami, and his colleagues, his friends, his family, they started to get worried. There was a missing persons report that was filed in both Dallas and Medellín as authorities are trying to piece together a timeline here with very limited information. So as of now, several organizations have joined in the effort, including the FBI Dallas field office, you have the U.S. Embassy in Colombia, the U.S. State Department. They're ready to provide consular assistance alongside the continued work by the Medellín and Colombian National Police, who are leading the investigation. American Airlines released a statement on the case saying, quote, "We are actively engaged with local law enforcement officials in their investigation and doing all we can to support our team members' family during this time." The Association of Professional Flight Attendants, the union that represents American Airlines flight attendants, told NBC Dallas Fort Worth that it was also, quote, actively supporting all efforts to help locate our missing colleague in Colombia. So as this search is continuing, you just have to imagine how Molina's loved ones are feeling, right? His longtime partner told CBS News this week, quote, "I want to believe that he's alive, and I want to continue believing that he's alive. But throughout each day, you wake up not knowing anything, and it makes the days go by longer and slower." According to the New York Post, Molina's father has also traveled to the country to help find his son. Okay, so now I want to bring in Billy Lane. He's a missing persons investigator, works with an incredible organization that he found called We Are the Essentials. I encourage everybody to check it out. Billy, thanks for coming on to talk about this. What concerns you the most right now? Yeah, and by the way, as everybody knows, you are literally outside on a search, and yet you still found the time to come on and talk about this, so really appreciate it. What concerns you the most about Mr. Molina?
Well, he's in a different country. He was at a nightclub, potentially out with friends, partying, having a good time, and he's not where he belongs. No one can get a hold of him, and no one knows where he's at. We've seen these cases like this come up time and time again. I think a lot of people is so used to being secure in the United States that when they go to other countries, they have that same sense of protection and that they can do the things they can do here in the United States. And sometimes I just don't think that is the case.
Are you familiar with Colombia? Are you familiar with those locations? Are you familiar with authorities there and what we should be looking out for?
I would tell you that it's a very challenged area. There's a lot of criminal activity. There's a lot of cartel activity there. There's a lot of individuals there that know Americans come there. And I believe, and I've seen it before, where they will target Americans because they know that they're outside of their area that they're used to, and that they may have that feeling of security that they have in the United States, and they take them for their vulnerability.
And when you are hearing the reporting that these people that he was allegedly with, the last people that he was seen with, have this history of kind of like what you're just saying, this drug-related thefts, and authorities say they've been able to identify these people's vehicles, their phones, no word yet if they've been questioned, if they've been taken into custody. What's going on there, you think, behind the scenes? Are they not revealing a lot of information for a reason?
Well, I think in most tourist areas of different countries, they want to put on the best presentation, and that it's a very safe, secure place because they want more people, especially Americans, to come there and spend their money. I would highly consider that foreign law enforcement may have a reason to hide things. They may not come out with the truth right away. Hopefully, we would have the FBI or somebody who has an attaché in that country with boots on the ground to actually get involved and seeing what's going on and try to understand the truth behind what we're hearing.
Before we even get into that, devil's breath. I had talked about this actually, by the way, in the Epstein saga because it came up in the files. Devil's breath, this tasteless drug They seem to be affiliated with it somehow. Do you have any experience in that being used?
No, I've just got experience in Ambien being used, which is a normal prescribed sleep medication. And I've interviewed people who've told me after they have been drugged with that, they have no recollection whatsoever of anything that happens while they're asleep.
So I want to just go back to where his location. I think this is such an odd part. Again, on one hand, he could have been confirmed in the early morning hours of Sunday in the La America neighborhood of Medellín. It's a residential area. It's 6 miles from the El Poblado neighborhood that he originally went out that night in. Then there's a report that he was last seen, or there was a message around the same time that indicated his location was an Airbnb in El Poblado. So we're talking now roughly 12 miles from the airport where he was supposed to report to. I don't know, one right, one wrong, two things can be true at the same time.
So it sounds like he may have met somebody. The group may have met somebody. They may went back to somebody's Airbnb. There might have been an after party. Um, that's quite possible. And right now, I think the important thing is, where did he go from there? Is there any trace of him from there? Um, and we can talk about this too. A lot of times in our cases, we see a lot of people end up in the emergency room, the hospital, for a medical emergency, overdoses. There's so many different possibilities there. And sometimes, even in the United States, it's hard for law enforcement to understand and identify individuals in the hospital because of HIPAA. So that becomes a sort of a barrier that we have to overcome a lot of times. And I pray in this case that would be the actual case itself.
Generally speaking, whether someone disappears in the United States or they disappear abroad, if you're talking about 5 days and no reported sightings of him, why is that significant? Why is that such a problematic situation?
It's either the norm for this individual. From what they're saying, he's supposed to have been back at work. He's supposed to have been certain places at certain times, and he has not been there. Now, in the United States, if you are Baker acted under a psychological evaluation, you're there for 72 hours. So that's typically our window. And anything after that, we really start growing extremely concerned. And rightfully so in this case. I don't know what the protocol is in Colombia for any type of psychological intervention if law enforcement took those steps. But I know here it's 72 hours. So now we're way past that.
And going back to something, the witness, right? This apparent key witness, Melina's female co-worker. Again, there were reports that she was disoriented. If she was drugged, how does that complicate her recollection of everything? How does that complicate her as a potential key witness here?
Like I said earlier, I've interviewed people who's been drugged with Ambien, and they lose pretty much total memory of anything. It's like a total blackout. And then that's going to impede. That's going to impede, who he was with, who he last talked to, what they remember, where they went. So those factors are very important, especially in an investigation like this. You're starting from ground zero. You know nothing.
And generally speaking, do you know if authorities there have the same technology that we do in terms of looking at surveillance and tracking cell phones? And, in today's day and age, it's very hard for someone to go missing. It's very hard for a crime to be committed and not leave a digital footprint behind. But then again, we always have outlier cases. Look at Nancy Guthrie. Do they have technology there the same way we do, as far as you know?
I don't believe the camera systems there are at the level in which they are here in the United States. But they do still have cell phone towers, which we can ping the different towers. They still have GPS locations that they can ping on these phones. But I just think so far as the amount of video, maybe in the more tourist area, you're going to have a lot of video. But once you get into the outlying regions, I think then you're going to start seeing less and less surveillance video, ring cameras like we're used to here in the United States. That's typically not something I see when I travel abroad a lot.
If you can explain to us why this is significant to have multiple organizations a part of this and what they each do. So as I said before, you have several organizations who have joined the search: the FBI Dallas Field Office, the U.S. Embassy in Colombia, the U.S. State Department is also ready to provide consular assistance, and they're working with the Medellín and Colombian National Police. What do they all do there? What's the significance of that?
So the State Department typically has, and so does the FBI. All these agencies typically have liaisons on the ground already in the country, and that's part of our partnership with these different countries. So they already have agents on the ground. They don't need to fly nobody over there. So they should already be liaison with the local law enforcement, giving them support that they're going to need, because we don't know what they have available to investigate a case like this. We're not sure how many cases like this they investigate a year, even if they do any of them. So our law enforcement is pretty much going to support them, federal law enforcement, the State Department, the embassy. They're going to have resources, they're going to send out resources, and they're going to realize that this is very important, because there again, we're talking about Americans who are a American who is missing, an American who's missing from a foreign country.
Would it help to send in a private investigator?
I would say no, more than likely at this point, unless it's somebody there in the country who knows the area, who has allegiance to the United States, to a family, and is not influenced possibly by the country. Because I'd hate to say it, but some countries have a lot of corruption. Some countries have a lot of control about what's released and what's not. And individuals who live in those countries are sort of controlled by the government. And this is a real situation that we deal with a lot overseas.
I hear about a lot of different distressing situations that are happening overseas. Do you see typical cases like this of people going missing like this in Colombia or abroad?
I think you see it abroad, not just Colombia. I think you see it in a bunch of different countries. We've seen these before. And sometimes, just like here in the United States, some of these cases will draw the attention of the media and it will catch on fire. And this case, like this one, like Nancy Guthrie, there's been several of these cases that for some reason, the media, the community, they're invested in it and they want more of the information about what's going on. And then that's when we see it on the news every day.
Which is not a bad thing when you're talking about the fact that the public may be of help. The public may be the first line to identify somebody or see a clue or see something suspicious. I don't know what that's like abroad. I know what that's like here. Do you see a public that would be ready to help in a situation like that? And again, I know I'm putting kind of a general net around that community. I'm not familiar with it. I don't know if you are.
Yeah, but the problem is, how much of this coverage are they going to see in that country?
It's fair.
How much access do they have to American TV? And I love the fact that American TV covers these types of cases. It's like Nancy Guthrie's case. We're keeping it alive. We're keeping it out there in the media. We're putting pressure on law enforcement. We're putting pressure on federal agents to do their job and to go out there and provide these families answers. And that's exactly what our nonprofit does. We are out there every day trying to make a difference in showing the law enforcement and the public that this can be done. And there's no reason that it should not be done.
Yeah, and I know it's probably being reported there locally as well. I do have a question, and something I was thinking about. His position, going missing. Now, he's not like that other story we've been covering about General McCasland, right? But this is somebody who has access to sensitive material about our airplanes. Does that give you any cause for concern?
Maybe a little bit. If it would have been in Russia or some adversarial country where we're totally at odds with, who want to gather intelligence on us and who have intelligence agents who actively follow Americans around when they come into the country, yes. And it may possibly be possible there as well. We don't know what we don't know. So I would say nothing is off the table at this point until investigators or people on the ground can eliminate the possibilities of this happening.
It's a really distressing situation. We're going to try to stay on top of it. We're thinking about Mr. Molina and his family, and hopefully they get some answers here. This is a really, really, again, distressing situation. It's one thing for somebody to go missing, one thing for somebody to go missing overseas. Billy Lane, thanks for taking the time. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. God bless.
And that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you should get your podcasts. You can also check us out on NBC's Peacock as well. We have all of our Sidebar episodes up there too. If you want to follow me, X, Instagram, my News Nation show, Jesse Weber Live, Monday through Friday, 11 p.m. Eastern. I'll see you next time, everybody. you.